Welcome to Range World, the podcast where life, development, leadership, growth, intentionality, and experience come into balance right before your very ears. And now, here's your tour guide into Range World, the president of Get Life in Balance, Rain Kansman.
Welcome back to another episode of Rain's World, and today I have Carla Fugit with me. Carla, and let me see, Carla and I go back a couple of years. She was just a teenager when I met her. Years ago. But I can tell her passion is around social sciences and helping high-level people make their initiatives happen. Her professional experience includes over 20 years of working with executives, groups, and organizations as a facilitator, a business coach, and strategic partner. Furthermore, her clients range from small businesses to Fortune 500 companies, focusing on strategy and organizational effectiveness. Carla, your company is?
Platinum Business Strategies.
Yeah, and how can people find you?
Google.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, if you just put in my name, Carla Fugit, you'll find me. It's if you put that in your URL, Carla Fugit, and it will go right to my webpage.
Perfect. And yeah, she's done some tremendous work for a lot of folks. So happy to have you on here today, Carla.
Thank you. I'm honored, and it's been so fun to be in Rain's world. So thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So today, Carla picked an interesting topic she wanted to talk about with leadership, and that has to do with candor or authenticity. Yeah.
Yes.
So why did you pick this as a leadership topic?
Well, I think back to, I think it was probably 2008 or 9, and I had intended to put together some blogs or a book or something on the authentic leader. Because through the work that I've done over the course of many years, it seems to me that there are so many people that they say something, but their actions don't always match. And so that's the authentic piece. It's, don't tell me something, but then act a different way. And if everyone would align, I heard this great description really in terms of equity from Jason Thompson. He's the VP of Diversity and Inclusion at Western Governors University. But he said, for leaders, audio and video have to match. And audio and video have to match. And so I think that's that authenticity piece. If we're being authentic, we don't have to try to do something else. We just are.
Right. So a couple of things I heard in there, and what I really like, and I can tell you this, Carla and I worked together on a lot of projects over the years, and she is great at calling you out when you aren't. And in a nice way. She would.
Thank you.
She would let me know when I was not matching my intentions with my word, and that's important thing to do. That's something that I probably am not as good at, because I probably would want to sugarcoat it too much, and they wouldn't get that I'm calling them out. But it is, and I agree with you. That is very important. One of the books that I really enjoy was built around the life of Gandhi, and the author Kevin Nair calls it a single standard of leadership.
I love that.
And so, yeah, that what you say is what you do is important. So what's the benefits of living a life this way of authenticity or having candor?
So, when I think about a lot of individual work that I do with executive coaching, and it's really holding the mirror up and asking them to look at themselves. And the first part of it is, look how amazing you are. Because what we tend to do is say, hey, look at all these things I need to fix. A big part of that, I think, with authenticity is owning that. It's being who you are. It is showing up for others in that way. And so you're allowing and creating the space. I think in terms of candor, and I appreciate you saying support. My goal is always to be candid but supportive.
Yeah.
What are some of those deeper questions that help people really make the move forward? And so if we can get stuck out of the, well, I should be this or shouldn't, or these are my speed bumps, how do we leverage our strengths? Sometimes that candor is what moves us. It really is the pivot point that makes us say, hey, I don't want to be that way anymore. Being the nice guy or the politician, where did it get me? And so to me, it's always the fork in the road. What are your two choices? What's going to help you succeed or others succeed? And what is potentially going to get in your way? Candor is something that, maybe it's my style in terms of social sciences because of the dominant style. And yes, I have other factors too, but let's just call it out, right? If there's a Band-Aid, rip it off, right? If we can do that, at least we can start the process of moving forward as opposed to deliberating and stalling. So I think part of it has to do with even sense of urgency.
Yeah. So, and I have to tell you, I know I started that way, but I always appreciated that about you. And even though I may not be that type of person, I appreciated hearing that from you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what that brings up for me is interesting transition in my life, and I'm going to be brief because this is your time. When I was younger, I used to lie a lot, and I used to try and build up on my reputation of being the kid from Detroit when I was from the suburbs of Detroit, right? And I tried to be this kind of hard image that people couldn't get a hold of, and it was exhausting, and it wasn't me, and that was the worst part. So I've worked really hard at trying to be authentic. So I appreciate you talking about this.
Well, and I would really acknowledge you and your vulnerability and admitting that. I mean, I've told lies before, certainly. I'm not proud of them. And I think being able to, I don't know, step out of that and own whatever you've done is such a big deal. So, I think that the authentic part, it's never intended to create damage with others or, collateral damage. I think sometimes people think of that. Well, if I tell them what they want to hear, it's going to be better, right? Well, no, sometimes moving through that point of tension is better.
Right.
And I cannot tell you how many times I have thankfully received feedback, people telling me you are candid, but you're always supportive. You'll call things out, and it almost allows the gap, right? Once you have a gap or a crack in the rock or whatever, you can chisel it and make something beautiful like Michelangelo. But if you don't, you have a big old piece of marble and it looks like marble.
Yeah.
And that's how I think of it. It creates the opportunity to create movement and awareness, I think, create future well, they don't create it, but they set the tone for strategy and achieving those things that we want. If we're not willing to do the work and get there, including being authentic, and that does sometimes mean, yeah, what I said probably stung, and maybe it is, I apologize for it, I own it. Or, my favorite thing to say is, are you open to some feedback? That usually means it's coming. Are you ready for it? But it's, in the sales process, it would be permission to close the sale. It's the same concept, but it's moving through that point of tension. And tension or conflict is so uncomfortable for so many people. They just don't know. There's so much discomfort. The discomfort is better to live in than moving through the discomfort to get to a place of peace and harmony through that conflict.
Yeah. I like that. And I know from my time of trying to tiptoe around those things or sugarcoat something, people are going to learn it. And if I don't help them learn it in a kind way, right, by telling them and giving them feedback, they're going to learn the lesson a hard way, and it's going to be worse for them. So,
yeah, 100%.
So let me ask. I have another question for you. How does one become more authentic or embrace candor?
Gosh, that's a great one. I had a life coach in early 2000s, and I was having some challenges with someone that I reported to at the time. And I remember calling her and I was so upset. And I said, I don't know what to do. And to me, it kind of showed up with integrity as a cousin or maybe even a sister or sibling, right? But she asked me, she said, end of the day, does this person really have integrity? And I said, no, I can't say they do. And she said, then does it matter? I mean, you have to show up as your authentic self. And ultimately, if you do, you'll never sell yourself short. You'll never sell out. What are other people doing? And I thought, oh my gosh, that really hit me like a lightning bolt. People are selling out. And I sold out too. I sold out in a lot of ways, but I made a cognitive choice to be more authentic when I can be, and more importantly, to hold the mirror up for others so that they can be authentic when they can be.
That's great. That's cool. Cool. So I love this. I don't have any other questions, but when you talk about building authenticity, are there ways, just, for someone like me who's not as comfortable with that, are there ways or places for me to find out how to do that more comfortable?
Gosh, that's such a great question. I can't think of a great HBR article or something to read to help you to be more authentic. I think some of the questions I would challenge you with yourself would be, does it feel right? And that's a really kinesthetic question. But if I try it on, does it feel right? Am I being authentic? Is it in integrity? I think is a really good follow-up question to that. I think, how will they receive it is another one. And if you can stay focused on assume best intent and assume your own best intent too, right? Check in with people. I think that's really key. But in a year from now or 5 years from now, did I show up with authenticity or not? And what does that mean? If I did or if I didn't, what are the ramifications? What are the consequences? I think as far as candor goes, one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what is the elephant in the room?
Right.
And it's probably one of their most uncomfortable answers. But yet, when we ask that question, everyone's thinking it.
Right.
But we have this polite culture that says, oh my gosh, it's taboo. We can't talk about this, or that's the great unsaid, or whatever. If we, again, it goes back to ripping the Band-Aid off and uncovering it.
Yep.
So we can have the opportunity to move forward.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So a lot of good stuff here, Carla. And I kind of want to, there's a couple of things that came to mind when you do that. I know one of my practices is at the end of the day, I look in the mirror and say, did I live up to my values today?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a similar, but, a little easy and gentler way for me to do that. But I like that piece. And I like this topic, and I've enjoyed having you on here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I love the work that you do. And it's been amazing to work with you through all these years, Rain. And thank you for always being the person that brings process and peace of mind and allows the space for others when those of us who are a little bit more, direct, maybe even unintentionally forceful at times. We all have our styles, but it's a good counterbalance. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And who's your child you brought with this for the interview?
This is my 8-week-old little child. Say hi. Say hi.
I love that. So you can see Carla's really not that harsh.
I'm really not that harsh. And thank you for letting me have a guest on the show today. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for being a part of this, Carla. You take care now.
Thank you.
This has been another leadership lesson from Rain's World. If this kind of learning whets your appetite, leaving you wanting for another helping of this kind of content, visit me at getlifeandbalance.com.